can't spend a lot of time worrying about, you know, how many people were there or what any of those things. We just got to take care of our kids and go. And so I think maybe someday I'll reflect on not just that situation, but I've had a lot of those things in my career. What was it like being a part of the 2006 Fiesta Bowl? That was pretty awesome. And I look forward to kind of sitting on the porch one of these days, you know, relaxing and enjoying those kind of memories. But we got a lot of work to do right now.
I guess speaking of Western Oregon, can you speak of the quality of the team they have, given that they beat Sac State?
Yeah, well, these Division II teams are extremely dangerous. You know, I look at their roster, Central Washington. There's some commonalities, but really there's a lot of turnover. You see that a lot in these D2 situations where these guys, you know, whether it's a junior college transfer, a bounce down, a kid that emerges late qualifier, whatever it might be. And so there's a lot of talent. And I think, as I told our team yesterday, this is a dangerous opponent. I mean, they have nothing to lose. They've already knocked off one Big Sky program, and they certainly don't see any reason why they can't go do it again. And so I think that's one of the things that makes them dangerous. But you know, and I can talk specifically about it. I'm watching the film. I know what these guys have. And on the offensive side of the ball, they're a 2-quarterback system team. Number 15. I can't pronounce his name. I'll call him by Phil because that's his first name, young man from Anchorage. He's a guy that they use in kind of their gun run stuff. They'll use quarterback counter, quarterback power. He's an effective thrower, but he's a really good runner. He's a big physical kid. I think he's listed around 6'3", 225. And then they have this giant, Nick Duckworth, who's actually, I can remember this kid's name because he was a fairly highly touted kid coming out of high school in Scottsdale, Arizona. He ended up going the junior college route and has ended up at Western Oregon. And he's a little bit more of a thrower, less mobile, but he's 6'6", 245 pounds, and can swing it pretty good. And so they have those two guys that kind of complement each other in different ways, depending on how they want to roll with their offense. Probably their most dynamic player, the guy that scares me the most, not just on offense, but in the kicking game, is the receiver, number 6, Paul Rivas. And he is, he's not very big. He's listed as 5'9", 165. I don't know if he is or not, but I know this, he's explosive as heck. Reminds me a lot of the Louis McGee kid that plays at Montana. Similar body type, similar skill set. He had a kickoff return that was explosive against Sac State. He had a punt return for a touchdown against Sac State. Is definitely their go-to guy. I think Bryant Harris, their offensive coordinator, is a guy that was a Big Sky assistant coach for years at Portland State. Was actually a GA at Boise State back in the day. Really good football coach. Does a great job of getting his playmakers the ball. And that's the number 1 guy, without question. Number 6 is, you know, we have to know where he is. He's a dangerous, really good football player. Coach Ferguson's been there forever. I mean, I think he played there, and he's from Monmouth. I think I don't know. I mean, he might have a house in their football office, for all I know. But he's, 11 seasons as the head coach, and basically spent his entire career there. And so he's entrenched at his alma mater, again, similar to the Bryant situation with Coach Vine, where you got a lot of stability with the coaching staff. They have an identity. They know what they want to do. I think they're really well coached. You can see that when they go down and beat Sac State on the road in Week 1. And you know, they were in control of that with Central Washington game really until late in the 3rd quarter. And Central Washington's a team that, after talking to Bruce Barnum about that, he felt like that was a really good team. Like that was not a mistake that, you know, because keep in mind, they had to score 22 points in the 4th quarter to beat them. They were down going into the 4th quarter. Speaking of Portland State against Central Washington. And so we're getting another good opponent coming into our house. I hope we can get the same kind of crowd support that we had. You know, I talked about their offense a little bit on defense. I think they're better on defense. I think their front 7 is the strength of their team. Their defensive line is stout, physical. They have this number 8, this Moore kid, is a very good pass rusher. Their defensive line coach is a guy named Kimo von Ollenhoffen, who's a Hall of Famer at Boise State, played in the NFL for a number of years. He is a very good D-line coach. And these guys are well coached. They're physical. They're number of 300-pounders. Hard to move. You know, Central didn't move the ball really well against them in between the tackles, and neither did Sac State. They can turn it loose in pass rush situations. They have 2 linebackers, number 47 to 5, and number 44 Heiberger, that are very good football players. I mean, these guys have, I think, 27 and 26 tackles respectively on the season in 2 games. They're impressive. I mean, they're active. They run to the ball. Very stout defensive front. If they have an area where they maybe have had some turnover, it's in the secondary. And so they've got some new players back there. But I think this is going to present a big challenge for us. And we've got to improve. That's our whole mantra. We've got to compete and improve, and we're going to be tested this week. And you kind of see who we are as a team, and if that's how we got to play it, that's how we got to play it. I don't know that we're going to be in a position anytime soon to be able to run anybody out of here. We've got some work to do that. But I know this: if our kids will compete for 4 quarters the way they have, we're going to have a chance to win every game.
You're having a non-conference opponent like this that plays someone in your league early in the season. Does that help on the front end scouting? Does it help you with maybe looking at Sac State in a couple weeks? Is there an advantage to be gained by a similar?
Yeah, maybe. I think that is an interesting combination just because of how close the games are. Because it's only a game apart, so to speak. And so I don't get caught up a whole lot in that. I mean, I've always tried to resist even thinking about an opponent down the road. We have some young guys that are kind of quality control and intern roles that they'll pre-scout for us. I don't really like to talk about the next opponent, or certainly 2 away. And so we're focused 100% on Western Oregon right now. We'll watch that Sac State film from a different perspective when we get to that week.
Coach Sears said he thought the front 7 was Big Sky caliber. Do you see that on film?
Yeah,
Western Oregon's?
Yeah, especially against the run. And they've got a couple of guys that have some twitch, but they generate pressure a lot with their linebacker core. And so I would agree with what Joey had to say there. I think we've got to. This is a better defensive line than we played last week, and so we'll have our hands full there.
How big of an upset can we consider that win against Sac State?
I don't know what to gauge it against, and I think that I think there's a lot of good teams in that Division II league. When you look at Central Washington, you look at Azusa Pacific, you look at what Western Oregon's been able to do historically. I mean, there's some good football teams. Humboldt State had a really good team last year, and so I think that the divide kind of gets leveled out a little bit at some point in time. You got to remember the way things have gone in terms of the NCAA legislation. NAIA schools and Division II schools can get a lot of really good athletes in the school, and that's changed at the FCS level and certainly at the FBS level. So that levels some of the talent out a little bit. I don't know enough about Sac State. We played it when I was at Washington, but I don't know what their talent level is across the board. I know I've looked pretty closely at Western Oregon, and they've got playmakers. I mean, I didn't talk about their backman, the Malik Braxton kid. They got a true freshman that was actually their leading rusher. I mean, they've got a bevy of skilled players. That's what I see on offense. I see this as a talented group of skilled players on offense, and defensively their strength is in the front 7. And they are dangerous on special teams, primarily because of number 6.
You mentioned D'Agostino. He's leading the team in catches right now. Looks like he's kind of becoming a favorite target of Tyler's. How do you think he's quickly risen the way he has, up the depth chart and now becoming such a key contributor?
Well, hard work. In one phrase. I mean, he's a guy that was going to spend that extra time with Tyler in the summer. He's very reliable. He's got outstanding hands. I think he had a 4th down conversion on one of our drives to start the game against Idaho. He obviously had 2 catches at the end of this game in a 4-minute situation that allowed us to continue to play. I just think he's kind of Tyler believes that when he throws the ball in his direction, he's going to catch it. And I think a lot of that's just hard work on Tyler's part as well as Johnny in terms of those guys developing chemistry.
And that video from the president's house when it was announced that he got a scholarship, kind of went viral, a little bit. But how good did that make you feel? How good does that make a coach feel when you're able to present something like that to a kid?
Well, I think that a lot of times, like for Johnny, the playing time thing had already kind of leveled, had already happened for him. But I think for a lot of these kids that are walk-ons, that scholarship legitimizes what they've sacrificed. And I think that's the cool thing, is to see somebody who has truly earned it, stick it out, and receive their just due. And I think that's something that doesn't always happen, but that's why persistence is so important in life. In the short run, you get what you get. In the long run, you get what you deserve. And I think Johnny is getting exactly what he deserves in terms of the type of work and the type of person that he is, and not just the scholarship piece, but also having the opportunity to contribute for the team on the field.
You mentioned
spoken about your coaching staff being your biggest recruits this year. Can you talk specifically about Michael Petrie and kind of keeping him here and what kind of an asset he's been for you?
So Michael is kind of interesting. I didn't know Michael really very well. Well, I'd never met him, but I had two people that knew him really well. Okay, one was a young man named Gerard Rapp, who was his cousin, and Gerard was a receiver for us on our 2016 team at Boise State. In fact, he's the guy that had the ball lateral to him on the hook and line, and I was scared to death because he was our slowest receiver. And so, but Gerard, you know, is a guy that I've stayed in touch with. He actually lives in the Seattle area. He works for Boeing, and so he'd been around the complex, and I'd seen him here and there. I remember he had called and said, "Hey, my cousin's there. He's a really good guy. Give him a chance." And then the other guy that I was connected to Michael through, actually two other guys, but one was our running back coach at Boise State, who recruits the Inland Empire for us, and it was at Washington as well, a guy named Keith Bonifant. And Keith wasn't going to try to tell me how to do my job. He's like, "Hey, man, I think this guy's pretty good. You want to make sure you pay attention to him." And then when he was GA in Colorado, another one of our graduate assistants at Boise at the time is the tight ends coach at Colorado, and he kind of said the same thing. So I had three different guys that I'd had relationships with said, "Give this guy a chance." And so I started talking to him, and it was clear right from the get-go, especially after communicating with the players, the level of respect that they had for him, the type of person that he is, that this was somebody that we needed to do everything we could to keep. And now he's got an elevated role as our recruiting coordinator, and I think you're seeing the dividends from that already, because his ability to see it the way I see it coming from an FBS program, in terms of how we utilize social media, how we market ourselves in recruiting, how we connect to recruits, I think those things have really helped us.
You mentioned not being able to evaluate the offense basically based on yards, just because you guys had a lot of short fields. So when you do look back at the tape or the stats or whatever, how do you evaluate the offensive performance from the last couple of weeks?
The one thing that was very obvious to me was third downs. We were not good on third down, and we've got to improve in that. And there's a number of things that go into that. And one of them is being more efficient on first down and giving ourselves a little bit better opportunity. And so those are things that we're going to address. There's a lot of, like I said, without getting into the minutia of it, there were so many plays that we left on the field. It was just amazing. I mean, I'm sure you felt it. I know I did a number of times, like we're getting ready to go. We got this 2-score lead. We got a 3-and-out. We put this one in. This is done. And I'll say this. I credit Bryant for that, because those guys made plays. It wasn't like we just handed it to them. We had some errors for sure. We had a couple of coverages that we blew, but those guys didn't drop the ball. I mean, they made the catch, they got the first down, or they got the explosive play that gave them the momentum back. College football's a long game. It goes back and forth. I think there's a lot to be learned from that game. We played 2 3-point games. We couldn't figure out a way to win one, and made sure we figured out a way to win the other. And so, I think that's kind of who we're going to be for a little while here. And so, I'm glad we spent a lot of time working on in-game situations in fall camp. I think Gunnar mentioned it in the press conference, but we put them in that exact. It was like 4:40 on the clock. Got to get 2 first downs. That's exactly where we ended up. So,
You've rotated a lot of guys in a lot of positions, but it looked like on Saturday, Matt Brownlow gave you a little juice. A lot of guys on the interior, but he was.
Matt's a kid that's been so surprising, because a year ago it was like he was a mascot. He did down low with Brownlow, and was just a fun guy to have around. And everybody loves Matt. He's going to run for governor someday and win a landslide. And I think Matt has figured out that, with the style that we're playing on defense, he can be a real live good football player. And he is very good against the run. And he should be. He's a 600-pound plus squatter, and he's got natural pad level, which is a nice way of saying he's not tall. And he's been very coachable. And so I think even he's embracing, like, it's my last chance to play football, and I can help this team. And I think that's an awesome deal. And I think, again, a fresh start for a kid who maybe had the role had been defined for him, and now he has an opportunity to define his own role.
You mentioned the momentum and how you guys were knocking on the door of that. Do you feel like Tyler's a momentum type quarterback? The 2 drives that he had, he looked great, and then up and down after that. So do you feel like if he gets in a rhythm, he can be?
There's no doubt. We've got to do a better job of allowing him to get into it, and I think that some of that is we can make that happen. And I know we know how to do that. And this kid is a good quarterback, and we've got to help him get into those spots. And one of the things I'm hoping is that we can get number 17 and number 2 out there together at some point in time too. I think that'll really help our offense.
A couple of guys that really showed out in fall camp that haven't gotten much time yet. Cam Sutton, Noah James. What's the situation with those 2 guys?
Noah's been playing a bunch on special teams. Hard for him to break in when you're looking at Gunnar and Chad, and Nick, who had a really good fall camp as well. And Cam had a little injury deal, and that receiver room is a very competitive environment right now. When you look at the kind of camp that Justin had, and you got Herbie, you got to get his touches. And you got Johnny, who's really kind of emerged, and Kevin Cassis, who's going to make a move. And so that's these kids, a lot of times their durability is more important than their ability in some respects, because if they don't stay healthy, it's a competitive environment. So I think Cam and Keon both are going to be really good, explosive players for us. We just got to get them kind of back in the mix.
Looks like Western Oregon, as far as like passing, running, it's pretty even play selection, but their passing numbers far outweigh their running
Yeah.
numbers. I mean, are they?
It's not like they take a lot. They're very heavy on what we call quick game. 3-step, get the ball out, full line slide, lift the back, cut the edge, put the ball in number 6 or number 2 or number 5's hands, and then they create a lot of yards after catch. And so while they can stretch the field vertically, that's not how they're getting all their yards. They're getting their yards by, like I said, getting the ball to number 6 in space, getting the ball to number 5 in space, then this number 2. I mean, I hate to apologize for using numbers. That's what I lock into. But they're very efficient in their passing.
One guy I wanted to ask you about, Joey Michael. He's played a ton on special teams, played really well on special teams on Saturday. Having a guy like that just buys into just specifically that role, what's that bring to a team?
I love Joey. I love it, man. I mean, that kid is all about it. We talk about roles a lot around here. One of the things that we discuss is that, usually things don't happen on your timeline exactly the way you want them to. But if you do a great job with your role, usually it's going to change for the better. And I think he's bought into that. And man, he's actually a game captain for us this week. He's earned every bit of that. I mean, he's been double teamed primarily on all the kickoffs, and he's eating those up, and he's earning more of a role every single opportunity he has. And so, that's one guy that really has impressed me. I'm going to say another guy that absolutely blew me away on Saturday. The most energetic, positive, hyped up dude in Bobcat Stadium was Chad, and had every opportunity and every reason to be disappointed. And I think that's all you need to say about Chad and who Chad is as a person. I mean, he was the first guy. Didn't matter if it was the kicker making an extra point or if it was an interception or a touchdown catch. He was the first guy to greet those guys, and that's what leaders do. That's riding for the brand right there. It wasn't about Chad. It was about what Chad can do to help his team.
All right.